We are back with the breaking news. The Labor Department has just released its weekly report on jobless claims. 1.3 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. That's the 17th consecutive week of more than a million initial weekly claims. Joining us now for more on the number, former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner. Also with us, co-chair of the racial justice organization Color of Change, Heather McGhee, and CEO of American Latinos United, Fernando Espuelas. Welcome to you all. Steve, let me start with you on that number, 1.3 million. As I said, it's been 17 consecutive weeks now in this country of a million or more Americans filing for unemployment. Where do you see the trend right now?
That's exactly the point, Willie. There is a lot. We should all be very concerned about this number of 1.3 to 5 million a week that it's been running. The trend is gradually down, roughly in line with expectations, but a bit slower than I think many of us would have hoped if we really want to see any kind of a sustained, strong rebound. At 1.3 million or 1.5 million, you're talking about twice as many Americans every week filing for unemployment insurance that we ever had in the worst week in our history prior to this pandemic. And so it's still a huge number, somewhat encouraging, but a lot of wood left to chop before we get back to reasonable levels of jobs.
And you've come armed with your charts, as always, and you're looking at the demographics about certain members of our culture, our society, facing unemployment in larger numbers than others. Where are you looking specifically?
So I heard it loose earlier this morning, a quote of Ivanka Trump is saying that people who lose their jobs should, quote, find something new. And what I wanted to show you today is how hard it may be for some of those people to find something new, depending upon what demographic group you're in. So let's start with minorities. And what you can see here at the top is that Asian Americans and Black Americans were up to 18% unemployment at the peak of this pandemic. They're only down to 15 and 14%. Respectively, of unemployment. Hispanics, similarly, were actually the hardest hit group. They were up to 21%. They're down to 13%. But then you look at white Americans. White American unemployment got up to 16%, but then it dropped down to 9%. So you can see this enormous disparity in joblessness among racial groups from whites at below 10% all the way up to blacks, Hispanics, and Latinos at much higher levels. Now, if you look at it another way, which is by education, you'll see even more stark numbers, which is that people with less than a high school diploma were as much as 26% unemployed at the worst of this. They're only down to 24% unemployed. They've barely improved. As you move into higher education levels, high school graduates were up at 21%. They're now down to 16. If you had some college, you went from 16 to 10. And now look at this rather stunning number at the bottom. If you had a bachelor's degree, your unemployment rate only really went up to 6%, even at the worst of it. You're now down to 2%. And that's in large part because many people with bachelor's degrees can do telework, can work remotely, can work from home. People at the other end of the spectrum with less education, these are people who are often working in leisure and hospitality in exactly the kinds of jobs that are being cut. So education has become a defining measure of success during this pandemic. And then lastly, let's look at it by age. And you see another interesting result here, which is that the youngest Americans, those between 16 and 24, their unemployment rates got north of 30% in the worst of this. They're still north of 20%, close to 25% for the youngest Americans. Again, many of these people are just starting out. They may not have finished high school. They may not have finished college. They're working at relatively low-paying jobs in hospitality and leisure. They're often the first to be cut. And then as you move up the age spectrum, you can see that things do get better. And for people in the middle of their careers, between 35 and 54, the unemployment rate is now down to 7% from 11 before. And so the point really, the takeaway from all this really is that there are enormous differences in impact from this joblessness, and people with more education, who are more in the middle of their careers, and frankly, who are white, are faring a lot better than many of the rest of our American colleagues. Billy?
Boy, those charts are a great snapshot of what's happening right now in America, both on the health crisis and the economic crisis. Fernando, I'll begin with you as we go back to Steve's first chart and we look at the breakdown by race. We look at the breakdown by ethnicity. You've been talking about this for some time, that this pandemic and this economic crisis have gone after Hispanics, African Americans, people of color in ways it has not gone after white people. Why specifically has it been so difficult for Latinos in this country?
Well, I think as we discuss systemic racism, we also have to talk about a related phenomena, which is structural inequities, right? And as Steve showed, education really seems to be the driver of whether people have been able to maintain their employment or not, and how much are they suffering. And I think as we look at public education in our country, we understand that depending on where you live, that's your destiny. There are good schools everywhere, but certainly if you're in a lower income neighborhood, your schools tend to be worse and perform worse, and that sets up your whole life. So when you look at everything from participation in white-collar jobs, college graduates, and so forth, you do see, especially in the Hispanic community, tremendous underperformance relative to the rest of the society. And you have to ask yourself, why? Is this something about the people, or is it about the structure in which they live? Secondly, I think class has a lot to do with the dynamic we're seeing now. There are a lot of people, certainly minority people, who are working in these frontline jobs that are now considered essential, but they're not receiving essential wages, right? They're minimum wage jobs primarily, and they're the most impacted. And of course, as Steve again said, unable to be done remotely. So I think there are a whole bunch of conditions here that we're now seeing in stark relief because of this pandemic. And aside from the systemic racism that we're trying to deal with together, we're going to have to look much deeper than that and see what are the impacts of those racist policies over a long, long time on the ability of people in different parts of the society to really survive these kinds of crises.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.